call to order the meeting of the Haverford Township Zoning Hearing Board of Thursday, April 18, 2019. Present at the front table to my far right is Ken Richardson, a voting member.
Good evening.
To my immediate right, Bill Rose, a voting member.
Good evening.
My far left, Jessica Vitale, a voting member.
Good evening.
Next to Jessica is Ed McGargy, a voting member. Next to my immediate left is Bill Malone, our esteemed solicitor. My name is Robert Kane. I am the chairman this evening. Mr. Richardson, would you please lead us in the pledge?
Yes, please rise. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Kenny. Any administrative matters?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we have minutes that were from March 21st, 2019, and make a motion that they be approved as distributed.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. We have 3 continued cases and 2 new cases on the agenda this evening. The first continued case is Z18-17, Dennis and Anne Marie Friel, owners of 155 Coopertown Road, Haverford, PA. I don't think I need to read the entire description to the record. Mr. Malone?
You do not. I received a telephone call this afternoon from counsel for the applicants. There was an administrative error on the side of the applicants regarding the hearing. They thought that the hearing was listed for April 25, 2019. I was advised that they do have additional evidence concerning the placement of the fence, both from an architect and from PennDOT. They intend to present that. They have requested a continuance of this matter to the May 2, 2019 hearing, and I would recommend the board accept that request.
Okay, any discussion? With that, we'll grant that continuance to our May 2nd, 2019 hearing. The next continued case is Z19-4, Tamer and Fatma Gubin, owners of 345 Brookline Boulevard, Havertown, PA, who request variances from the provisions of Section 182, 206B, and Section 182, 802D1 to allow the front portion of the dwelling to be used as a coffee shop. The property is on R4 and located in the 7th Ward. Good evening.
Good evening, Board. Can I pass up our additional evidence?
Absolutely. Where we leave off. Here's the deed.
Just let you guys grab those. Good evening, Joseph Consul for the applicants, Tamar and Desi Guvin. They're here with me. The property is 345 Brookline Boulevard. As we ran through at the last meeting, it's zoned residential. However, the front third of the property has been zoned for commercial use since at least 1991. That was evidence that was put on the record last time we were here. However, obviously, because we're seeking to use it not as a salon, but as a coffee shop, the different commercial use requires an additional variance from the board. So here we are. Just to recap, we appeared to have fairly wide neighbor support from the folks that showed up. There was some concern about potential use of our parking pad as a skateboarding zone for kids, which we've addressed, and I'll get to that in a second. And there was some other concern. You guys wanted to see the top-down view of the property in relation to other properties. You wanted to see the no parking on the street, which we've provided ample photographic evidence of. And so we're back to address what we need to address. So looking at my packet, we...
Mr. Consul, just
Yes, sir.
briefly, you provided a plot plan, which we're going to have marked as Exhibit A4.
Yes.
And then you also provided a packet entitled Continued Zoning Appeal with multiple exhibits. I recommend we admit that as a packet, marked as Exhibit A5. So if we just take a moment to mark those, and then as you refer to them, please refer to the exhibit number.
So I can mark the entire packet as A5?
I would go A4 and A5. I think that's the best way to go.
All right, so looking at A5 then, the second page is essentially just a summary of what we've done. I was informed tonight by my clients that they consulted with a Mike Bianco regarding having the pavers installed. The suggestions that were made were the pavers featured on the next page. It's going to be permeable to allow for drainage. It's not going to be skateboard friendly. And, you know, the other options were essentially like pebbles, and that didn't seem good for parking or walking and would make a mess. So we thought that these turf stone pavers appeared to be a good choice, and we were told by Mike Bianco that they were reasonable in terms of installation in front of the property. And if you, the next page of the packet has a photo of a car driving on the pavers, I guess, so we can just see that they are in fact appropriate for parking. Another concern that the board had, if you continue in the packet, is the ratio of the use of the property. You guys had pointed out that when you have a property that's residential and commercial like this, that a third of it can be dedicated to commercial, and we've done the math. The entire structure itself is 2,050 square feet, 600 of which is the total coffee shop, which equals out to under 30% of the total structure area, which you can verify that by referring to the square foot information on A4, and then I kind of broke it down on A5 with the ratio with parking page, where I just sort of explained everything in detail to kind of give you an idea of the percentages and stuff. So the residential takes up over 70% of the total property. And then we sort of follow that up by a picture, sort of, my client sort of labeled parking spaces on there, showing you the 4 on the property, and then the other available public parking on the street is also labeled. And this is also a good time to point out the no parking signs in front of both their neighbor's driveway, the neighbors that were here last time, and then also in front of the, hopefully the coffee shop. Following that, in A5 is y'all's zoning code, showing that if you turn to the second page of the code, we've highlighted the fact that we require 1 parking space for every 200 square feet. I mean, for every 100 square feet of floor area devoted to patron use, and the area devoted to patron use on this property is 400 square feet, while the total footprint of the commercial space is 600 square feet. The customers only have access to 400 square feet of that. So the 4 parking spaces that we're able to provide are adequate per your zoning standards. And then we followed it up with additional photos. There was some concern last time about us only showing our property, and in fact, the blueprint we had brought out at that time only featured the commercial as well. So we're just hoping to rectify that tonight by giving you guys a better idea of the space around it, kind of seeing the church, the nearest neighbors, and I believe both of those neighbors came out last time, both the neighbor to our right and the neighbor directly behind us came out and spoke. And there's a series of photos in there just to give you guys different angles. We tried to pick a bunch that would just kind of illustrate the whole property. And then finally, there's a smaller version of the plan in the back, which I had originally put on there before I decided to blow it up, because it's easier to see. So with that, any questions?
I have one question.
Go ahead, Bill.
So thank you for the additional information. We see the sidewalk here, the three parking spots that are being shown in the corner on A4, it would be the lower right corner, which is currently, I think, lawn.
Ish.
Yeah, lawnish, that's fine. The A4 shows a wide apron for the drive, for a curb cut, right? But in the aerial photos in A5, a car coming in there is going to need to drive across the walkway. They're going to access, let me first ask, they're going to access through that curb cut, right?
Yes.
In the front, on Brookline?
Yes,
So these cars are going to pull in, and then they're going to drive across the walkway. Is that right?
yes.
This is Desi, one of the owners of the property.
Yeah. This is exactly how it's going to be.
Are you removing that concrete, and what I'm just wondering, what's that going to look like? It doesn't appear in A4 as a driveway, but effectively, that's what you guys are going to treat the front yard as, not just three parking spots, but a driveway.
Yes.
He's
yes,
asking
I'm
if
not
if you're gonna
exactly sure what the
remove this
question is.
and-
We are going to remove the concrete, yes, and we are going to replace it with eco paver. The turf.
So this pervious paver that you're talking about using, is that going to cover the entire front lawn from your neighbors all the way to the corner of Wexford?
I haven't been able to get the quote from Mike Bianco yet, but we are planning to do not to cover the walkway, but just to the left, the three spots to the left, and handicapped parking to the right of the entrance.
Okay, so a car pulling in here, you'll have pedestrians who are coming down the sidewalk, because you testified in the last hearing that you'll have a significant number of walk-in customers, right?
Probably, this is what we're
And,
expecting, yes.
and that's based on your other location experience too, right?
Yes,
And so people will come walking in, and then they're going to presumably use your existing walkway up to the entrance to the coffee shop.
yes.
But that will also be where cars are turning in and crossing over that walkway.
We're going to have to work around it, because I'm unable to show you right now. Apparently, I don't want to bring an excuse, but I wasn't able to bring the estimate with the exact plan of how the walkway is going to look like.
Are you thinking about moving the walkway? Is that?
It really depends on the contractor, what exactly he's going to suggest.
Do you anticipate receiving a plan, a written
Yes.
plan with the walkway and the pavers?
Yes.
When do you think you would receive that?
I was supposed to receive it last week. There was
Okay.
that in the.
The reason I ask is this board has to base its decision upon
Yeah.
actual evidence. And while I understand what you're saying, it's a bit speculative as to what you think it's going to look
I
like.
understand.
So my recommendation to this board is not to vote on this matter, because how can they vote if they don't have the actual evidence before them?
Sure.
If we're able to potentially narrow the concerns down, I don't see a problem with us getting we were told we were gonna get it last week, and it didn't happen for
Okay, well, I'm
whatever
gonna
reason, which is not your
I'm going to
problem.
recommend this matter be continued to the May 2, 2019 hearing, because this board needs to see this evidence.
I'm not against that. Is there other things that need to be discussed here, or are we kind of narrowed it down to?
I'm sure there is. I'm just saying.
Okay, all right.
On that basis, I
That
can't.
was my only question, was how
Okay.
the interplay between the walkway from the aerial view versus the depiction on A4. So I'll turn it over.
We knew we were slightly derelict in that piece of it, but that's life, so.
There was also the question of state permitted.
We did extensive research. We couldn't find anywhere on Brookline Boulevard that had permitted driveway cutouts. Nowhere. I mean, in places where there's obvious cutouts, I couldn't find any kind of like state permits for that. So I don't know.
Well, then would it be a logical assumption that you need to get a state permit for the curb cut?
Actually, it's the same contractor who we are planning to hire to do the pavement, who did the skirt, like the cut there for the driveway. So he, according to him, there is nothing existent that he worked on. I mean, he repaired the existing skirt driveway. If it's required, we will be willing to do that, yeah, to obtain one. This is how we got the property. It's
So
not
you're
something that we
gonna
did.
widen the existing curb cut?
We didn't do it, no, it was the way we purchased the property.
No, meaning your intent, is your intent to widen it?
Oh, I mean, it's not really necessary. If you see where where the line is for the second no parking, if we can just cut this triangle here, that would be sufficient.
Okay, but you are gonna try to widen it to some extent, so I think it would be good to see in the plan where they propose to widen that
Okay.
curb cut.
Okay. I'll make sure.
Kenny, do you have any other questions?
I just want to know, the assumption that you're going to park on the front because it appears that everybody else parks on the front. I have a problem with that. Assuming that you have a permit, it's a state highway. And I don't know, to me, the state's got to get the curb cut permit.
I guess my question here is, have you reached out to PennDOT regarding Mr. Richardson's questions? A. B, can you reach out to PennDOT? C, and I hate to see the residents of the township be brought out on numerous occasions. If you are going to continue for the purpose of providing that contractor's information and perhaps the PennDOT information, do you think that it's viable to get that by May 2, 2019, or do you think that you would instead be better served in this board and the township and the residents would be better served by continuing this to the May 16, 2019?
I mean, that's likely what I think the best case, that what ended up happening. My call to PennDOT didn't really get anywhere, but I didn't dig much deeper than that after the contractor reached out and had mentioned that he had no idea, that there, as far as he knew, there wasn't one.
Well, the
in
May
existence.
16 hearing would still be within the NPC requirements for conduction of hearings.
Okay.
So again, my recommendation to the board is, I just don't want to see the residents
just check
of
my
the
calendar.
township,
I got it.
put out here. So I would think that you really need to reach out to PennDOT, provide that contractor information,
Okay.
and push this matter off instead of May 2nd to May 16, 2019.
That works for me.
Yeah, sure.
Jessica, do you have any questions?
The only thing that I was looking for that I don't see is a impervious surface calculation for what's.
That's something the contractor should also be able to provide.
That will come from
Yeah,
her.
so
Okay.
pretty much just a calculation of your current coverage with the concrete walkway and even the gravel, and then what you propose.
Ed?
And no questions.
Kenny, anything else? Bill, anything else?
Just one, I guess one question. At the corner of Wexford and Brookline, is that a bus stop? And so it would be interesting, I think, to show what the distance from the corner to your new widened curb cut is, because presumably that would be the area that a bus would pull up. And if the bus were sitting there,
Would it block it?
would be blocking your driveway.
Okay.
Anything else? Joe, anything else you'd like to add?
Nope. So we've got, looking for the plan from whoever's gonna be doing our paving with an impervious surface calculation, reaching out to PennDOT regarding, obtaining a permit for a curb cut, and then, some bus length mapping, from the bus stop to where
And
the,
I'm particularly interested if your contractor's thinking about moving your walkway perhaps over to the, adjacent to the handicap spot or what? So that we could see how the pedestrian walkway would relate to cars pulling in. You know, I still am not particularly comfortable with turning your front lawn into a parking lot, but at least we'll get a better sense of what this all looks like.
Okay, great. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
With that, I'll ask if any residents that receive certified mail that haven't spoken or have spoken and have something new to add want to address the board tonight? Anybody that received regular mail? Any other residents? Anybody want to address the board tonight?
Regarding that issue, or?
Just regarding this case?
No, no.
Okay, and so we're going to continue this to our May 16 hearing. And at that hearing, anyone interested in this case would have an opportunity to address the board after they hear the additional information that Joe presents on that date. But you spoke last. Do you want to speak, Jim?
Yeah.
You're quick. When I say anybody else,
Well, I was waiting.
I mean, did I swear you in at the last hearing?
Before you did, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
What would you like?
Well, first of all, the Thomases who were opposed to this could not make it tonight. I just wanted to bring that out there. Both have other obligations. So what I wanted to say, though, was a couple things. Number one, they're very nice people. Nothing against the people. I just want to bring up some facts and bring up some facts that are, some of the neighbors have some questions about. Number one is the parking on the apron. I don't know how or why it was allowed to happen before, or if it was ever really allowed to happen, it just happened. And it's not their fault. But the parking on the used to be grass plot, and then there was cement put down, is not a good idea because of the fact that you're coming in off of Brookline Boulevard, and there's cars that come in there, and there's people coming in and out of the shop, and you don't know who's going to do what, and how many people can really see what's going on and things like that. This is the only shop along Brookline Boulevard, I can tell you, where there's parking on the front lawn. And that's what some of the neighbors are objecting to, is it's setting a precedent to allow other places to do that. At the end of the boulevard, they have straight-in parking down where Chris Connell's shop was and all that. They have the straight-in parking. In the Brookline Shopping Center, they have the big parking lot, which is fortunate for the businesses of Brookline. Then other than that, the one thing that the gentleman just mentioned is there's two spots down below where, yes, there's no parking because the residents, the people prior to him, the Kerwoods, had asked for a no by their driveway because when Annunciation Church has funerals, people from out of town or not familiar with the area just decide they're going to park and then they would block their car in or the Kerwood's car. And also down at the people that were here last time, the Thomases, they have a no on their driveway, so they won't block the driveway, so they have access in and out. Now, there is parking along there on both sides because the church has about 8 spots along their side. And it isn't anybody's spots. I mean, the church doesn't own those spots. I don't own those spots. The township doesn't own the spots. First come, first serve. I understand all that. So that's what we would like to see is if they have what I call mini masses. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 8:30 till 9 o'clock. Tuesday and Thursday, 6:30 till 7 o'clock. Okay, they're the mini masses. After that, they clear out. Then on Saturdays and Sundays, they do have services at 4:30 in the afternoon. And that's a bigger crowd. And on Sundays, there's 3 masses, which is a big crowd for those 3 masses. So that's what I wanted to bring up, the facts of what I see there. And like I say, I don't know how this ever happened. It certainly wasn't their fault, but somebody snuck in there and allowed this parking in there. And now, it's sort of set a bad precedent, and that's what the neighbors are concerned about. Other than that, I'm sure they're going to be good neighbors. They certainly have presented a good case. So just wanted to put my feelings forward. I've been dealing with monks. That was Monk Gallagher's, by the way, from back in the 40s. I think Kenny was around then too, weren't you, Ken? So I just wanted to bring that up. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Jimmy. Do you have a question?
Well, my clients just pointed out that they're not married to the parking. So if that's not tied to an approval from the standpoint of patron use being required. If we're able to variance around that, that's something we can consider too, if it's going to save everyone a bunch of hand-wringing and calls to PennDOT and that sort of thing. I'm not sure how best to present that to you guys. I know we'll probably have to come back, but if parking appears to be the main concern, we're not married to it. We believe the other available spots and walk-ins will.
Parking's not part of this application.
So, out of an abundance of caution, it appears to me that you're saying that your client is willing, or your clients are willing to make alterations regarding the parking that has existed on the property. In order to do so under the MPC, that would then have to be incorporated into your application. In order to do that, you would have to amend your requested relief for a parking variance, which I would accept your statement as being a request for a parking variance as well. In order to do that, we have to advertise that.
Well, it's just
because there are people that.
I'm just trying to float it real quick to get a quick set of
I'm
opinion.
understanding what you're saying. So
Okay.
I'm going to recommend we go off the record for a moment.
Okay.
You speak to your clients, determine if they want to ask for a parking variance such as that you would then have alternate relief. And if so, that would have to be advertised. And then I would suggest that perhaps instead of the May 16th date, just to make sure that the township and you can coordinate getting the advertising done, that we actually look at the, pardon me for a second, I had it up. The June 6th, 2019 date, because we want to make sure there's ample time to do the advertising. And if so, I would need an indication from you that your client is waiving the time constraints contained in the MPC for conduct of the next hearing so that there are no deemed approval issues. So let's go off the record. I'm going to come and talk to you for a second.
We'll go back on the record. So,
Mr. Consul, we took a break, discussed some things. Am I correct that the applicant is requesting an amendment of the application to include a request for, in the alternative, a variance from the parking regulations of the township?
That's correct.
Am I also correct that the applicant is requesting a continuance to the June 6, 2019 hearing?
Yes, that's correct.
And in conjunction with that request, am I correct that the applicant is waiving the time constraints contained in the MPC for conduct and timing of hearings?
Correct.
With that, I would recommend that the board accept that request and continue this matter to the June 6, 2019 hearing.
that is what we'll do, unless there's some objection from one of my fellow board members.
No objection.
Okay, so this matter is continued to June 6th hearing.
Thank you, board.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you for bringing all the extra information.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, our next continued case is Z19-5. Andrew and Sharon Major, owners of 1 Jacks Way, Haverford Town, PA, DC folio number 220901531561, who seek a variance from the provisions of section 18226C7 to allow construction of a 20-foot by 20-foot deck that will encroach into the required 25-foot rear yard setback by 15.5 feet. Property is zoned R4 and located in the 9th Ward. We continued this case so our solicitor could research a certain matter. He's researched that matter and provided advice to the board. I'm going to move that we close the record on this case. I'm not going to move. We're going to close the record on this case. And I'm also going to make a motion that we approve requested relief.
I'll second that.
So I'll just call for a vote. Kenny?
I agree.
Bill?
I agree.
Jess?
I agree.
Ed?
Concur.
Okay, that application's approved, 5-0.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
What was the?
It's approved,
Okay.
5-0.
Thank you.
Good luck. Okay. Our first new case this evening is Z19-6, Abigail Panicos, or Pancos, owner of 912 Deer Road, Bryn Mawr, PA, DC folio number 2205002970, who seeks a variance from the provisions of section 18204C5A to allow construction of a front porch that will encroach into the required 40-foot front yard setback by 5 foot 9 inches. Property is owned R2 and located in the Fifth Ward. Hello.
Good evening, Andrew Pancoast. My wife Abigail's elected me to speak.
I need to swear you in.
Oh, yes.
Please raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And your full name again for the record? And full
Andrew-
name and address for the record.
Andrew Welsh Pancoast, 912 Deer Road, Bryn Mawr, PA,
Okay.
19010.
Mr. Pancoast, first and foremost, anything that's contained in the packet that was provided to this board is not yet in evidence, and it's a very mundane thing to make sure everything's in. Just people sometimes assume that everything that was submitted with the application is in, so it's not.
Okay.
But one of the items that was submitted that does not have to be marked is a copy of the deed. And it does indicate that the house is owned by both yourself as well as your wife. The application, however, was presented by and signed by your wife and does not identify you as the applicant, but your signature is contained on that. So purely as a formality, are you adopting the request of your wife for this requested variance?
Yes,
Good answer.
yes. And
With that, Mr. Kane's standing is appropriate. I have reviewed the deed.
Okay, thank you. So it appears that there are things attached to your, documents attached to your application that you'll want the board to refer to during the course of your hearing?
Correct.
Or you're going to want to refer to?
For simplicity, there's a grading plan from Momini Associates, which will show the front yard setback,
Well, I'll tell you what, why don't,
or I'll follow your
do you
lead.
have a copy of the application that was submitted to the township,
I do.
together with all the attachments?
I believe I have everything, yes.
Okay, do you? Let's go off the record. So how, just in the interest of assisting you in marking the exhibits, we'll go off the record momentarily, and Mr. Malone will give you some guidance marking the exhibits. So we're off the record. Huh? Yeah. Okay, we'll go back on. You can identify them. And Andrew, we're gonna have Bill just hold them up and say, is this what you request to be marked Exhibit A1? And
Okay, very good.
All right, we're back on the record, and while off the record, we pre-marked some exhibits. Exhibit A1 is a packet that was submitted previously to this board from Dames Design, Inc., which is 4 pages of architectural rendering. Is that correct?
That is correct.
A2 are plans prepared by Momini, Inc. Is that correct?
That's correct.
A3 is a 4-page exhibit of photographs, which you can further identify, but I believe of the subject property. Is that correct?
Correct.
A4 is a 4-page document, which I would suggest are letters from neighbors concerning the requested variance. Is that correct?
Correct.
A5 is another set of drawings similar to A1 from Dames Design, Inc., but in further detail. Is that correct?
Correct. More detail on that.
Okay, and you're moving for the admission of these exhibits. Is that correct?
That is correct.
there, okay, now that we've gotten through all that administrative stuff, please tell us a little bit about what you would like to do. and
Okay,
why.
what I'd like to do, just to give you a brief summary, I live with my wife and son, we live at 912 Deer Road in the Coopertown neighborhood. We're in the midst of a pretty significant renovation, adding a bedroom and bathroom over the garage, which entailed changing the pitch of the entire roof of the main house. So in that process, we have looked at the front porch. The existing front porch was a non-conforming, it was on the front setback was over the front setback line. The house was built in 1940. Approximately 1974, the zoning line was drawn. The front yard setback line was drawn. That did not conform at that time. It's 4 feet over the line. So the variance language that we're saying is, I'm seeking is 5'9", but really the difference I'm looking for is 1'9" beyond the existing. In the changing of the pitch of the roof to make the addition and everything work, the architect and I looked at the drawings, and if you go to Exhibit 1, you'll see pretty much the existing has its approved on the permits and everything that I have with Haverford Townships, but on the second page is a shed roof, and we widened the porch left to right. Again, the extension beyond the existing footprint really is 1'9" towards the street. So that's what we're looking for. We've been there for 14 years. We want to stay there for another 14 or longer. I have some photos in the neighborhood, which is the exhibit showing all the photos. Probably the most common change is a lot of the fronts. They increase the front porches. They give a little more coverage over the front doors. And these are random photos throughout the neighborhood that have changed in the last several years. And I felt that, our plan was kind of in keeping. It's not an overly aggressive move forward. It's, 1'9". I have some letters from various people in the neighborhood in support. And really, that's it. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Are you widening the porch at all from its present width?
We are making it wider, yes. There is a window well to the right of the front door that's always given me a little bit of problem with some leaking into the basement. That would be blocked up and covered with the flagstone front porch.
And is that part of the reason that you're requesting this relief to remediate that one issue?
Yes, it's a sort of secondary reason, but it would be very helpful in that. The increase in the pitch of the roof makes the original A just not fit very well. We have some issues in tying it back in, and that's why we were seeking the shed look that you see on page 2 of Exhibit A1.
So for the record, Exhibit A4 is letters from 4 neighbors. Do you know the addresses of those that signed this? So Joanne Glussman, do you know where she lives? Glussman,
Yes,
G-L-U-S-M-A-N.
I can get that information. It's
Not, you don't have to be precise. Is it your next door neighbor?
they live 4 doors down.
4 doors down. How close is Therese Richmond, 100 Rodney Circle?
Directly across the street.
And how close is Curry? I'm not even going to
Sepkowski.
attempt this name. Sepkowski.
The Sepkowskis are a block and a half away.
Okay. And Craig Leach, 100 Lee Circle.
Diagonally about 150 feet away.
Have you spoken to the neighbors surrounding your property that are?
I have
adjoining your property?
spoken to neighbors on both sides, and there is a neighbor in attendance this evening.
Did anyone express opposition?
No.
Okay, and for the record, I've read these letters. There's no objection. All the neighbors are in favor, as Mr. Panco said. Okay, please continue.
Just based on everything that we have presented and looked at, I would, answer any more questions of the board, but we would like to seek the variance to increase the porch forward to 1'9".
So it's presently 4 feet. You want to go to 5'9".
5'9".
And once completed, would your house line up with other houses on the block, or will you be closer to the street than other houses?
There is variation. If you were to stand and look down the street, there is variation on the street. We would probably be either right in the middle of all of those or slightly ahead.
I don't have any other questions. Kenny?
Yeah, on Exhibit 3, the 4 pictures,
Yes,
can you walk me through them? What they are?
yes. I'll start with, if you'd like to maybe hold up the first one that you have.
Yeah, it's got an address there, 133.
Yes. 130.
On the front pole.
Can I, mind if you held it up so I could just see it? Okay. That was the most recent addition slash renovation in the neighborhood. They had the same front, sort of front porch that we had, just an A over the front door. And then they have essentially gone corner to corner of the entire house with a porch. Personally, I felt that was a little much.
Which
But-
street is this? Is it, I can see by the picture, it's 133. Is it 133?
I believe that's Clemson. No, Stockton, I'm sorry, Stockton. And it, essentially, if you looked at that picture where the A is, I would be doing everything from where it says the 133, and then it's to the right. It's probably not half, it's probably a third of that dimension. And it's really to allow us to have 2 chairs on the front. We sit out there in the evening and say hello to our neighbors.
And how about the next 2?
The next 2 are essentially, we have the same, a lot of these houses do not have overhangs, do not have protection from the weather. So they, in their differing attempts at renovation and modification of houses that were built in the 1940s, they've added, essentially front porches of varying dimension.
Are these on your street or?
These are within a 2-block radius. All of these homes are in the Coopertown neighborhood.
That's all I have.
So, the chair asked a question about the average setback for houses on your street, particularly on your side of the street adjoining your property. You've had a designer and an engineer.
Correct.
Neither one of them did a median setback calculation that would have showed whether you are within or below the median by doing this. I know you testified that you think you might be a little in front of it, but
No, that was something we did not do, we had
so.
been directed.
Let me just ask a question. The additional 1 foot 9 inches into the front yard setback.
Correct.
Why is that needed beyond the current intrusion into the front yard setback?
Again, by going forward, it helps us accommodate the slope of the roof, which helps us accommodate the slope that we did to change for the addition.
Right.
To connect the bedroom that's now over the garage, or being built now, we're under construction, over the garage to the main house. I had to take all the rafters off the house and increase that pitch to a 12-12 pitch.
Right.
So to get a more coherent connection to the house, the shed roof, it allows the rainwater to be handled and snow load to be handled better, and that was an alternative. I knew we were going to have to come before this board to ask for that, and it's really just the neighborhood's changing. It's always been a family neighborhood. If you're not, I'm sure you're probably all familiar with Coopertown. They have a lot of great traditions there. They do their own 4th of July parade. It's, there's a luminary night at Christmas. It's a great neighborhood to be in. The houses are built in the 40s, and people are trying to adjust them and modify them to fit today's needs, and that's what we're trying to do as well. And, that's what we need to sort of make that front work. If the board sees otherwise, we'll go back to you know, what we.
I only asked a question because you had said that you had increased the pitch of your roof in order to accommodate the renovation, but by extending this, my guess is that the shed roof effectively over this patio, you're actually reducing the pitch of that a little bit because it's the same starting point and it's going further out.
It allows us to, because of the placement of the 3 dormers that we have, it just allows us to kind of tie it in what we feel is in a better manner, architecturally and also structurally.
Did you, but those 3 dormers didn't change in the renovation, right? The 3 windows upstairs that you're tying, you're gonna tie this.
There were
shed roof-
dormers on the front of the house to
Yeah,
begin with.
yeah, okay. All right, I don't really have any questions.
Ed?
Yes, if you were granted this relief, would you agree to a condition that you would not enclose the front porch?
Absolutely, I would agree to that.
Would you agree that the only utilities that you would be installed would be electric?
Absolutely.
And can you address the issue of runoff and how it might change for the neighboring properties?
Yes, as far as the impervious coverage on the lot, that's why we hired Mominy Associates to do the grading plan and everything. With the addition, we are under our impervious. Right now, there is a stamped concrete sidewalk and porch area for the existing porch. And with the reconfiguration, we won't need as much sidewalk because we'll be closer to the driveway with the new porch, and it's almost a net 0-0 of change in the front. I do have additional impervious with the addition, but I'm well under the numbers, you know, and I did not require any stormwater management.
You didn't increase the amount of impervious with the renovations.
Correct.
Okay, the issue of downspout, do you have to change the location of your downspout?
No, the downspouts are the same. There's a downspout on the right-hand side. If it's hard to see, but if you look on Exhibit A1, there is a 1'6". I don't take the porch all the way over, and that is to accommodate the downspout that's already existing there. And then we'll wrap around a downspout to tie into that one as well, a gutter from the porch. So the one downspout stays there, and that empties in the front yard. And it's probably 25 to 30 feet from the sidewalk is where it empties out. So we have no issues there.
Thank you, that's all I have.
Jessica?
I have nothing additional.
Neither do I. All the questions were asked. Next time we'll go first. Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, I think I'm done. Thank
Any
you.
other questions? Ken? Bill? Ed?
No other questions?
Okay. With that, I'll ask if there are any township residents present that received certified mail that wish to testify? Anyone that received regular mail? Yes, sir, please come forward. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And your full name and address for the record, please?
My name is Raymond S. Wierczewski. That's Wierciszeweski. My wife, Elizabeth, and our 2 children live at 920 Deer Road. So we are not the Pan Coast's immediate neighbor. We're one door down. They're 912, then there's 916. We're 920. I'm here to speak in favor of the plan. Andy is correct. There's been a lot of renewal in the neighborhood, and I think it's a fantastic thing. He showed me the plans. I think the request is minimal. Sitting on my porch, I can look down and see the porch at 916, and I can see the porch at 912. I'm no architect, but it doesn't, you're talking about that variance from the sidewalk. I don't think it's an issue at all, at least from a layman's perspective. So, yeah, I think it would be a great thing for the neighborhood, selfishly, so they would stay and not move out, but also because I think it's, it is, like Andy said, these are older houses, and a lot of people in the neighborhood are renovating them. That's a great thing for the neighborhood. I wish I had the money to do it, but I would ask you all to, in fact, in light of the fact that there is no opposition from neighbors at all, that you grant the request.
Okay. Any questions? I'm going with Ray,
Ray is good.
because I don't want to butcher your last name. Kenny, do you have any questions? Ray? Bill?
Okay.
Jessica?
No.
Ed?
No question.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Any other residents of Haverford Township? Okay. Andrew, anything you want to add? Do you have anything you want to add?
No, I do
Close
not.
the
I just want
record?
to thank the board for their time.
Okay, we'll close the record on this case, and if our meeting is concluded, the testimony portion of our meeting is concluded early enough, we'll try to make a decision on this case this evening. In the event we're not able to reach a decision this evening, a decision would be rendered at our next regularly scheduled meeting on May 2nd. With that, the record on this case is closed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You can just call the office tomorrow,
Call the office tomorrow, or Monday.
or Monday. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Good night, guys. So Gallagher's next. You guys want to come up and set anything up?
Good evening. My name is Shirley Gallagher. My husband is the gentleman sitting right here with the jean jacket on. I live in,
I need to swear you.
oh,
Can you vote?
sorry.
It's okay, sure. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes,
And your full name and address for the record, please?
is Shirley Gallagher, 2415 Poplar, Poplar Road, Havertown, PA.
Okay. And you heard our solicitor walk the prior applicant through marking exhibits, I presume? Marking of exhibits?
Yes.
And do you have exhibits that you want marked and entered into the record on this?
I had given them to Mrs. Shank
Okay, so,
the day that I came in, March 18th.
right, so they're part of the application that you handed the township. In order for them to be considered during this hearing, they need to be marked as exhibits and moved into the record. So just as I asked Mr. Malone to assist the prior applicant, we're going to go off the record. I'm going to ask Mr. Malone to assist you in marking your exhibits so that we can move through the hearing in a more efficient manner. And then when you're done marking, we'll come back on the record and identify the exhibits, and then we'll proceed with the case, okay?
Okay.
So we're off the record.
Thank you.
Fragility. And it really gains his independence for the little bit that he does, to where I come in and his meals are very different from ours, his diet and everything. So it really does make it easier that he's self-contained to a degree. Yeah, that would make it a bit difficult.
Was there ever a consideration to putting more of the living quarters on the first floor of the garage instead of up a flight?
Well, yeah, several. This way, the second floor, which you have pictures of our house, the second floor hallway is so small and so tight that this way, if he's self-contained above the garage, he has his own stairwell with a, what do you call it, the chairs? Stair chair.
Oh, there's the light.
And then I can load him into the car. And the same with my husband. My husband has Parkinson's. He's had it for 27 years. And this will allow my husband and myself to be able to gain access to the garage and doctor's appointments and things like that, but especially for my brother because he's much older and much more fragile at this point.
I think my question was more, I guess, if you only had a one-car garage versus two cars, and the bedroom and bathroom were located on the first floor, and then connected to your existing kitchen.
Well,
You know what I'm saying?
we really don't want that because to walk in from our kitchen into his living quarters, it just makes better sense this way, all around. And we would like to have, we used to have a garage, a one-car garage, We have been wanting to rebuild and have not been able to, and my brother had stated that if he came there, he wanted a garage for his car. But as far as, the working plan, this is what we came up with, and it seemed to work and accommodate both of us the best.
That's all the questions I have for now.
Ed?
No, I have no.
Yeah, so, my brother's 87 years old, and so his access to and from this is going to be by assisted chair on the staircase. And just so I understand it, so essentially this garage, which is about the same size as your house now.
There's a there's a drawing on the last page. No one's looking at my pretty drawing. No.
I'm sorry.
You're set there. You're all on the
Yep.
first. Go to the
I
last.
loved your drawing.
Oh, good.
I thought it was
You all
great.
have that out in
It was,
front.
it's a,
I showed it
There
to my
you
husband
go.
last
did you
night.
do that by hand?
Oh, yeah.
Wow, okay. So, you certainly get it. So the little patio deck that fills the gap between the house and, I guess is backed up by a breezeway or a connection of some kind, is that right? So behind this little wooden
That's the kitchen.
Yeah,
deck.
that's the actual,
But, so that's how the garage is attached to the house. It's not just attached by sharing a patio. Behind that, there's a little connection, right?
Yes, the patio is going, isn't it? We're not
yeah,
doing the patio.
we're not doing the patio.
Okay, so, so this, the existing kitchen, and then you said there's double doors that go into the garage? Okay, this just looked like a single door that comes onto a landing in the garage, then you'd step down. So upstairs, the upstairs walls are separated by that equivalent space, right? And we look at this as being, presenting to us, it has a separate entrance, right? Separate doorway. So whoever's living there doesn't need to go through the house.
No, but they can go through the house, through
Sure,
the
they
kitchen.
could, right.
Right.
But they don't have to.
Right.
In fact, will there, to go into this space, they wouldn't even have to go into your garage, right? They would go in the doorway and right up the stairs into this apartment.
Right.
Right, so someone could be living there without ever being granted access to your house if you wanted to, right? You could
Right,
completely
yeah.
Close it off. And yet the kitchen is, you'd consider the kitchen to be critical?
Well, I think it would be greatly helpful to me and to him. It's not anything big,
Yeah.
it's on a small scale, just something that he could handle when he wants to.
How
And
much cooking does he do for himself?
right now, very little. Right now, very little.
And when you sent, you included some pictures, which I think were the upstairs hallway, is that right?
Yes.
So, I wasn't sure why we were being shown these, because the
To show
upstairs
that-
doesn't connect.
That if we had attached the second floor directly to the house, we would have to break through the bathroom or a bedroom. And doing that, the hallway, we would have to reconstruct the walls from the one bedroom or the bathroom because the hallway is so tiny. I don't know if you're familiar with the English Tudor style.
Didn't a township official ask you about that?
Yes.
Maybe you should explain that, why you're showing that.
Well, I did, because it was so tight. He would never.
No, I meant earlier, a township official had talked to you, not these people, not the zoning board.
Oh, you mean when I
At the
first
township,
applied?
Yes, and she had mentioned.
Okay, we're gonna stop that, and it's okay.
I'm sorry, I was
No,
trying
no,
to,
let me finish. Everything that happens here is taken down by a court reporter. When we have little sidebar conversations, it really makes her job difficult and really muddies the record. I don't care if everyone here is for, sorry, I don't care if everyone here is for an application, against an application. regardless, we have to make sure that there's a nice, clear record in the event that anyone ever looks at this. So please, if you do need the opportunity to talk to each other and clarify things, ask for a moment, and please do so off the record so things don't get muddied, okay?
So if you want to
One
talk,
moment, yes.
you can take a minute.
Sure, surely.
Go ahead.
No, he's asking,
So
why do you have the
but we're
photographs
not-
of the second floor?
Have to wait for the recording light to come back on. And count to 5. 5 Mississippi. Okay, please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Your full name and the capacity in which you appear, and your address, please.
Stephen Giacomucci, Giacomucci. And I'm the contractor. My address is 208 Aronimick Drive, Newtown Square. Yeah.
And what would you like to tell the board?
Well, in the initial, about a year ago, when we were discussing this, and even before we brought Peter on to the thing, I had called the township and said, like, what are the parameters? What could we do, And they had said, now again, it could have been a misinterpretation, I don't know, that kind of stuff. But they were just saying that as long as we would just don't give it a separate exterior entrance. I said it would be very difficult to get it into the house, with the way that second floor is configured. And they said as long as it wasn't an exterior entrance, and you could get into it from the house, which is the first floor drawing, they can get into the garage, and then they get into the staircase and get up to the second floor. But, that's what, again, it could have been a misinterpretation, but we were just, as we talked and we brought Peter, the architect, in, this seemed to be the best flow that would help Shirley maintain her desires, her flow of her family. So that's kind of where we stand. That's all I have to offer, so.
Okay.
I don't think I have any other questions at this time.
Kenny?
Yeah, the one problem we face is, and what you're doing is commendable, but we don't give a variance to you. We give it to the house. So whether it's your house or somebody else's house,
Right.
whatever we do here, it stays there. And so that's where we have to come from. Okay? So we need to work with you and help you to accomplish your goals. And where we can be confident that your neighbors and the neighborhood won't be compromised.
Right.
So that's our goal here. And
Understood.
with the two guys standing there with you, I think the brain trust there can come up with a reasonable alternative that we can accept.
And what would that be?
Well, and for me, the separate entrance is a problem. And for me, a full kitchen is a problem. And not because you're doing anything wrong, or he doesn't deserve a kitchen, or
Right.
deserve a separate entrance, but because of the legacy that we have to worry about.
Is there a way legally that it could be done that would protect what you want as well as what I want? As far as, are you talking about later down the road, if somebody buys the house, that we could amend our deed or something like that?
Well, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not gonna give you legal advice, but I would hope that you could explore that opportunity and see.
Okay. That's something I would do on my own.
Yeah, I mean, the way that the house has been designed,
Right.
it really kind of starts to look like a duplex, right? Which is a different provision. That's a conditional use in the R6 zone. It'll go through a different approval process. But that's what it kind of looks like, that you've got full separate living, separate entrance, full kitchen, full cooking and habitation facilities. And you're exactly right. We have to worry about what does that mean for the neighborhood in 20 years if you've got two different families effectively living in in two halves of a duplex. I don't think you're trying to do a duplex. I get it. But that's because you've done a fairly nice design, it's creating essentially two separate habitable spaces.
So if you took away, when you spoke to the township, they told you it might be a problem if there was a second or a separate entrance into the addition, right?
Correct, yeah.
So
We were just
they
trying to come up with
foresaw
something,
that the
yeah.
board might have a problem with that. But there's a second entrance proposed, right? A separate entrance. So we're not supposed to tell you what to do, we're supposed to listen to you. I think Ken's trying to give you some insight into issues that generally cause the board to be concerned with certain applications of this nature. But Ed, do you have any other questions?
No other questions.
Jessica? Kenny, do you have any other questions? Bill, do you have any other questions? Okay. Is there anything else that you would like to add, Shirley?
Tell them that.
What I was just telling the builder was that for my brother, getting in and out of the house or going to his apartment, if you want to call it that, it would be the easiest access for him to have his own separate entrance because of the fact of his needs. Otherwise.
Does he drive? Is that?
He does, but very little now. For the last year, he has COPD, and with the dialysis, it's 2 years now. It's far and few between. We go little rides, around here or there, because I'm just being very cautious with him.
Look, God bless, we respect what you're trying to do, and I think that's why Kenny was trying to
Say what he said.
say what he said.
Yeah.
Because generally, we just listen and then vote based on what was presented. Why don't we hear what the neighbors have to say, and then we'll have you come back up and we can have another interaction.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
So with that, I'm going to ask if there's anyone present that received certified mail that wishes to address the board? Anyone that received regular mail? Any other residents? So you guys are here presumably for this case. Does anyone want to address the board?
We were here just to watch.
Okay.
We're coming at the next hearing, and we wanted to see.
Did you learn how to mark exhibits? Or come up before the hearing starts and we'll help get it out of the way. And you, sir, do you want to, are you here for this case?
Yes.
And would you like to address the board? I need to swear you, but, so your full name, or please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
And your full name and address for the record,
Robert
please?
Michener, Michener, and I live at 2417 Poplar, Haverford Town.
And what would you like to tell us this
I mean,
evening?
I came out of interest to see what the plans were and what they were planning, and don't really have any objection to the building, but I certainly hadn't come up with the separate structure piece, so that would be concerning, that if, after, that it turns into some crazy college student hangout, that would be concerning, so hopefully we can work that out, because I certainly think they have good intentions, and the general structure I don't have any problem with, but the concept that you guys who do this all the time came up with, that would be concerning as the neighbors, so hopefully they can come up with a plan. Didn't think of that.
Yeah,
All right.
well, Any questions from Robert, Jessica, Ed,
No question.
Bill?
No.
Ken? Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, Robert. Ken? Okay, Shirley?
Yes.
Please come back. So, in light of the questions that were asked tonight, would you, is it your desire that we close the record and then vote based on the submissions of the testimony that was presented? Or would you like us to continue the case and you could work with Peter and Stephen and perhaps modify one or two things? I leave it completely up to you. You're the
Well,
applicant.
A question, what about, like I was saying before, I don't know exactly what it is called, but like an amendment or something to our deed, so that if down the road the house gets sold, that it could not be sold, or even, excuse me, even having, you know, something removed from the kitchen so that it couldn't be used as a kitchen, or state it plainly that if someone was to buy the house, this was not to be used as a rental, period. I mean, is that a possibility? I don't know. I would figure.
And we're not allowed to give you legal advice.
I
But
understand
I
that.
do have a question for our solicitor, which I can't ask in public. I need to ask him in private. I don't like the flow of the hearing. It just looks like we're taking a lot of breaks tonight, but that these technical matters have to be worked through. So
Right.
I have a question for you, Bill, that obviously we have to ask in private. So we're going to go off the record again and meet.
I appreciate it.
Okay. So Shirley.
Yes.
Mr. Malone's going to research
Yes.
something I asked him to look into. So we're going to continue to your case to our next regularly scheduled meeting on May 2nd.
Okay.
And in the interim, if you should reconsider or come up with some alternate design you want the board to consider,
Right.
you're welcome to present it that night. Otherwise, we'll close the record and vote as things stand right now. But, so if you want to come present some alternative, you're welcome to do it that night.
Okay.
Okay, so with that, this case is continued to our May 2nd hearing.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. And the picture is, actually,
Thank you.
Thank you.
you're welcome. Okay. Before we adjourn, with respect to Z19-6, Abigail and Andrew Pancos, owners of 912 Deer Run, Bryn Mawr, PA, DC folio number 2205-0029-700, who seeks a variance from the provision section 184204C5A to allow construction of a front porch that will encroach into the required 40-foot front yard setback by 5 feet 9 inches. Property zone R2 and located in the 5th ward. I would move that we approve the requested variance with the following conditions. 1, the porch not be enclosed. 2, the only utility to be installed is electricity. 3, water runoff is to be directed so as not to adversely impact neighbors. 4, that the project be completed in accordance with the notes of testimony. And 5, the project be completed within 1 year of this approval. Anybody think of any other conditions they want to add? Well, that's how I would vote with those conditions. So, Kenny?
I concur.
Bill?
I concur.
Jessica?
I agree.
Ed?
I agree.
Okay. That application's approved 5-0, those conditions. With that, we are adjourned.